So we're talking about reproduction, and a special type of reproduction is called parthenogenesis. And this is where an offspring can develop when the egg is not fertilized. So an unfertilized egg can produce an offspring. This is a special case. One example, which is really different, would be in the Hymenoptera, which would be like bees. So when we look at bees, we see that the diploid female can produce eggs that become haploid males. So if the eggs are not fertilized, they become males that have only half of the genetic material. So this would be an example of parthenogenesis. We can also have a diploid female producing eggs that are then fertilized by the male. So this would be like your queen female bee, right? And she gets fertilized, and then that produces diploid females. So this is sometimes referred to as haplodiploidy, and it is a unique characteristic of specifically social insects like bees, honeybees. We also have examples of the eggs, the unfertilized eggs, becoming diploid and then producing diploid individuals. So another example of this in a vertebrate, which is unusual, is called the whip-tailed lizard. Oops, the whip-tailed lizard. And these are actually found in our desert Southwest, like in Arizona. And they are actually believed to have evolved from a species that had sexual reproduction. Hence, they still have courtship. So in this case, the females produce diploid eggs. And those diploid eggs do not need to be fertilized. Now, this is interesting because the eggs have actually gone through a version of meiosis. These eggs could be genetically identical, or excuse me, genetically different from the parent. So it's not always that parthenogenesis is producing clones. It could also be because of the meiotic events, there is the option or the ability to produce some genetic diversity. So the interesting thing about these guys is that they still retain courtship. And one of the good things about not having to have a partner in order to reproduce is that you don't have to get close to another individual and potentially get a sexually transmitted disease, right? And you don't have to spend the energy of courtship. So this is interesting because at certain periods in a female's lifetime, she actually starts to look like a male. Not look like a male, but act like a male. And she'll actually crawl on top of the other female, and it requires this female on top of the other female specifically in order for ovulation to occur. So she becomes male-like when her ovaries are small and she's not ovulating, and her estrogen levels are low. When she is ovulating, she becomes more female-like. And so over the course of her lifetime, she alternates between acting like a female during courtship and acting like a male during courtship. And so this seems to be an evolutionary constraint in this species. And there's been a lot of work studying them because if you think about it, sexual reproduction is important because it produces variation. And this variation allows for a population to evolve over many generations, and specifically to evolve in response to infectious diseases like bacteria and viruses and parasites, right? So there's been a lot of questioning whether or not this is an adaptive response, like why? But you can imagine when the scientists first started studying these, all of the the lizards were female, and they couldn't actually figure it out until they realized that they're all female when we look at them, because they're all able to produce eggs, the larger gamete. They can do that because they have parthenogenesis.